Oh yes, it's time for this. Oh yes, my fellow sorcerers, hello and welcome to Incinerate. Proper Incinerate. Endgame, pit-pushing, game-dominating Incinerate. You have all asked me many times to do this actual peak min-maxed version of just burn everything to death with a flamethrower, and I understand why. It really is so much fun to just plant your feet, stand there, beam of fire, ignore all the damage you're taking as everything around you just disintegrates to cinders. It's a playstyle unlike literally anything else we have, because Sorcerer is kind of all about mobility, and Incinerate is, I don't care about that, I'm just gonna hold this and everything's going to die as it walks up to me. And you might think that that actually works against us, and in some cases, yes, of course, but actually it lets us play with a few synergies that we just can't do in other builds. For example, to jump ahead a little bit, we'll be weaving in Soulbrand into this, because it gives us constant barrier applying that doesn't interrupt the Incinerate channel, which opens up a whole new world of immortal tankiness, which Incinerate is uniquely good at. But let's not actually focus on the defense, which is indomitable, but the offense. How do you feel about Incinerate ticking for like 50 to 60 million a go? Right? Is that not actually absurd? And my gear is far from perfect here. Hell, I've had to use a bricked piece, so I'm missing the 4th stack of Talrashes. It gets so much better. But the core is here, and I am very proud of it, and I cannot wait to present it to you. And, well, yeah, you are seeing this at tier 70, and you are going to see the Bramble boss at the end. Now, obviously, tier 70 isn't crazy, though in the context of, Incinerate, what is technically an off-meta build for a skill that, until this season, was arguably literally the worst skill in the game, including all of the classes. So yeah, that's pretty exciting, but as you're seeing, the boss damage is hilarious. Like, this Bramble got melted, and granted, a tree's weakness might be fire, but damage-wise, tankiness-wise, with actual proper perfect gear, this could easily push up to a tier 95, a tier 100. I honestly think you could get the tier 100 achievement with it. The base is just that strong, and the damage scales just that much, because we're taking advantage of something special here. You see, many classes have infinitely scaling damage, i.e. a Paragon node that infinitely scales. Sorcerer doesn't have many. Frigid Fate is capped at 30% multiplicative, even though it's not working properly. But we do have one, and that is Burning Instinct. This goes up and up and up forever. So as long as you get more critical strike bonus damage, as long as you get more intelligence, it's just going to keep climbing. And I'm currently sat on 131% multiplicative more burning damage. That is colossal. All we need to do to make Incinerate pop is push this node, and then every other part of the build can go into making you unkillable, and that is a beautiful recipe. This, in perfect gear, can end up easily at the 160, 170 multiplicative mark, which is absolutely nutty cuckoo bananas. So yeah, this turned out as a project to turn a fun playstyle in Incinerate that you guys really wanted me to have a proper crack at endgame, level 100, pit pushing, all of the stuff you want to do, torment bosses, which it can do fine. I mean, for context of how much damage this version is doing, this is regular andariel. Oh, regular andariel's dead. Like, it's so silly. In any case, this started out as a fun project to make a fun build, viable and good, in all of the endgame content. And what it's actually, become is, oh, no, wait, Incinerate might be genuinely sort of our 4th, 5th best build overall, and there's not actually that much of a gap going on? Huh. So all in all, I am very pleased. Let's get on with this. Skill tree up first then, as expected, and we just put 2 points into Fireball, or really any of them, to move on. It's not needed for enchantments or anything like that. Then onto your cores, where we whack all of the points into Incinerate, of course, then take it to Enhanced and Destructive. This 30% less damage dealt you is huge, mainly for just tanking the elite packs in high pits and just getting rid of them real easy without having to constantly evade and jump around and cancel your Incinerate. Then we get ourselves Devastation just to get the 12% multiplicative more on our core skills, which of course applies to the Incinerate burn damage. Over to your defensives, where we get Teleport. I have a few extra points in it, and I will address why in a second, but we want to then take Enhanced and Shimmering. We want 3/3 in Glass Cannon for the essentially free damage. We're tanky enough. Then we grab Ice Armor, we want Enhanced, and this time we want Mystical. We don't actually spend mana that fast, because Incinerate is so relaxed on its mana consumption, so we get this, and this way we can just stand there tanking, channeling Incinerate, and all the enemies crowding round us just get frozen, and then they start taking more damage from the Incinerate beam, and it's just a beautiful synergy. I really like Mystical Ice Armor wherever you can get away with it over Shimmering. Then we get one in Elemental Attunement, just so the reset can happen. Your Lightning Spears and your Ice Blades will crit enough that it is worth it, and then we are good to move on. Though that said, I am using currently Shaco on this, because of course if you have it, use it, which is why I don't have any points in Flame Shield despite it being on my bars. If you don't have Shaco, then you want to take 2 points out of Teleport, put 1 in Flame Shield so you have it, and then put 1 in Lightning Spear so you have it, and those 2 are on your bars. That's the only difference. Because I do have it, I'm just using it to put 2 extra points in Teleport, so it has a slightly lower cooldown, so the build is more mobile. That's really all it is. It's not huge. Then we go over to Conjuration, where we get a line, 3 out of 3 Mana Shield, 3 out of 3 Protection, keep us alive. We want Conjuration Mastery, because we will be throwing out Lightning Spears and Ice Blades. The damage, the movement speed, everything is nice. And of course, Ice Blades will be our first enchantment slot. Take it to Enhanced and Summon for the cooldown reduction, and we are good. Whack some Lucky Hit, because we do want a little bit of it here, primarily for 2 main things. The first of which is Firewall, which will make up your second enchantment slot, and the reason it's here is not for the damage it does. The damage is fine, but it's irrelevant. What we want Firewall for is to appear and then trigger Enhanced, which then makes Incinerate, which we have amped to all hell, do 25% multiplicative, just more burning damage. You will notice a huge spike in your output when Firewall spawns. We don't need any of the others because we don't care about literally Firewall itself, just Enhanced. Then we get 3 out of 3 in Inner Flames, so Incinerate does more. We don't need the others. And then we'll get Icy Veil, so our barriers last as long as possible. Over to the ultimate side of things, where we get Fiery Surge, just so we can get 3 out of 3 Soulfire and 3 out of 3 Endless Pyre. Our key passive, then, is going to be Combustion for the extra burning, as we don't need the extra close damage reduction because we're tanky, and this doesn't work against Echo attacks anyway, which is the only threatening thing, and the damage increase of this is actually rather marvelous. So, nice and tidy, there is our skill tree. Gearing this up then, and goddamn, the 2002 intelligence to power that Paragon node is so silly, and honestly, ideally, it should be more. In any case, we want a 2-handed staff at 100%. You do not want a one-hand focus, attack speed doesn't matter, and we want to double the strength of Flamethrower's aspect here, so Incinerate does 170% more. Then we want to get Fortune on our boots, so this Lucky Hit helps make those firewalls appear, and the Lucky Hit is also to just skip ahead a little bit to the affixes for the chance to make enemies vulnerable that we will need on our ring. And then aspect-wise on the ring, engulfing flames. Because pit bosses have such an absurd amount of health, and even the trash starts to, doing this multiplicative mob burning when they drop below 50 is a huge ramp in damage, and you will notice bosses start dying so much quicker in the pit once they drop below 50 thanks to this aspect. It's actually coming in quite clutch in what used to be quite a aspect back in the day. Then on your gloves, you just want conceited. We're always going to be barriered. That's kind of the point of Incinerate here, especially weaving in Soulbrand, so that's very nice. And then, of course, Conflagration on your neck, so it gets 1.5 times, another 60% multi on Incinerate, and the extra burning is nice too. If you don't have Shaco, as I do, then just use a normal helmet with intelligence, with cooldown reduction, and 2 nice defensive tempers, and then a defensive aspect that is global DR, like Conjuration, giving you 20% of it here, which is the one I would recommend. Unique-wise, then, we have our Self-Tell-Rashes. Of course we do. It is just too good to pass up. And then we have Tybalt's Will, not for the mana, but just for the 20% multiplicative more damage whenever we Flame Shield and Teleport. It's nice to have, and very much worth it. And then the real kind of pièce de résistance defensively, Soulbrand. This makes it so our healing potion gives us a barrier. We want barriers at all times to, you know, not to die, but also trigger things like our barrier synergies. It also gives us a way to keep generating good barrier while channeling Incinerate, because we can just be channeling it, use a health potion to gain a barrier, and then just keep steadily using the health potions as we channel to keep getting a nice top-up of barrier with said potion. It's a really, really nice combo, and then just 20% global damage reduction with a barrier is incredibly useful. Coupled with Shaco, that is 40% less damage taken from echoes, which is quite hard to get otherwise. So, yeah, Soulbrand is really, really nice here. When it comes to your gems, you want damage over time in your weapon, armor in your jewelry, and then intelligence in your armor everywhere, because the more intelligence, well, the more burning damage from that Paragon node, and 500 of it for free in your armor? Yeah, that's not bad at all. So, affixes then. This is where things get a little bit specific. On your staff, critical strike damage, ironically as we've seen, is really good because it powers up Burning Instinct. You're also fine with something like fire damage over time too. They're very, very close. You want very specifically the chance to make enemies vulnerable somewhere. One lot of it, it will provide enough vulnerable for you and is a nice increase to your damage. I've got it on my ring here. Past those special mentions, we then want to go through the general ordering of things, which at the top is intelligence. The reason I'm using the staff, despite accidentally bricking it with lightning damage instead of poison or shadow, so I can get the 4 stack of Tell Rashes, is a greater affix intelligence. It's just too good to pass up when we need as much of it as we can get. So intelligence, intelligence, intelligence is your number 1 aspect, which means you want specifically on your amulet percent intelligence increase like I have here. Sadly a lower roll, but it is what it is. You want percent intelligence. After that, you want cooldown reduction, you want extra damage over time, you want critical strike damage, and then lucky hit chance. Then you're just general useful ones like extra maximum life and so on and so forth. Defensively, you want to make sure you are armor capped by having 3 skulls in your jewelry and at least 1 greater affix armor on your boots. It's kind of the only real place we can do it, so yeah, you kind of do need a greater armor affix on those boots. That is all well and good. Of course, you will be effortlessly res-capped in this build because we have a bajillion intelligence, so you don't even really need to worry about that. And you will see when we get to the stats, then we have 500% critical strike to bump that burning damage. But then when we actually get to damage with burning, we're on 753%. But honestly, this could be a lot higher. Alrighty then, next let's talk actually playing this, and honestly, it's quite simple. We just stand there and we channel. The nice thing to do is use ice armor, because that lets you keep channeling. Whenever ice armor is on, you will generally be tanky enough that you don't need to worry about dodging anything. You want to use flame shield while channeling in rotation with ice armor, so again, you can keep channeling. And then if there's a big group of enemies, it often quite helps to channel for a while, teleport back, and then get some space, and then channel while they catch up to you. Use lightning spear and ice blades on cooldown, and other than that, you are kind of good to go. Use your teleport as you need it to avoid things, to get out of danger, and to speed through the dungeon, as well as give yourself an extra barrier. And then if you ever don't have a barrier, use your health potion, get your barrier with Soulbrand, and you are good to go. And it does stack up with your other skills, so you could just really keep those barriers rolling, and you're kind of good to go, really. It's quite a simple build to play, because you just hold and channel, and the only advice I would give is trust in how tanky you are with a barrier up, especially ice armor. It's really tempting when you're surrounded by elites to think, oh my god, I'm gonna die, oh my god, but you're fine, you really are, just keep burning. You ironically make yourself squishier by stopping, because you lose the 30% DR from channeling Incinerate. So, let's talk tempering. On your weapon, you want to have from Elemental Surge either poison or shadow damage to get your 4th stack of Telrasha. I hope you have better luck than I did here. And then you want to have on any offensive slot one of 3 things. You either want to have fire damage %, which is the worst, then fire damage over time and damage too close, which are about equal, and you can choose which one you prefer to go for. Obviously, damage to close is 1 out of 4 versus this, which is 1 out of 5, but you do have the backup in just pure fire damage if you get unlucky. So that is that. Defensively, then, you do want to get at least 1 lot of warmth, which is what I have here on my necklace. Incidentally, on your necklace, you do want offensive and defensive. The reason for that is so that you are naturally healing to full while you are channeling Incinerate and applying barriers with your healing potion, and this just keeps you nicely topped off. It's not worth using skill points on, but it is nice to get here for free. Then, otherwise, you are good on your defenses. Over on the utility side of things, we want to have barrier generation, and that's all well and good. You can also get worldly fortune if you're feeling a little bit more offensively inclined. Both work out well. Mobility side of things, movement speed or evade cooldown will get you there alongside teleport cooldown too. And then finally on resource, the only one that really matters is Ice Blade or Lightning Spear cooldown, ideally Ice Blade cooldown. So that will do you there, and that leaves us with a little tasty bit of paragoning. Though if you are wondering masterwork targets, you want to hit the intelligences on your gear, and especially the % intelligence here. Other than that, just kind of accept what it gives you. Going point for point then, from our starting board, initially up left to resilience, mainly for the maximum life, as we don't need the extra all resist with how much intelligence we're rocking. Then we want to go right through elementalist, get that extra 1 maximum life, and then go up to the glyph slot where reinforced is. 15% damage reduction on barrier, this is going to be up all the time, works against echoes, really good to have, especially in Incinerate. Activate it with the willpower. We get erudite mainly for the intelligence to power burning instinct, as again we don't need that much all resist, and then up left through elemental balance into enchantment master. Initially we want to head up to the left for elementalist. This is kind of a spare point, I've just put it in more non-physical damage, but you could put this anywhere you want. And then we head right to the glyph slot via elemental balance, and here is elementalist for 15% multiplicative more. Then we want to head up to erudite, and then right into burning instinct, which is where it all happens for this build. Initially down to the glyph slot via cinders, where we have destruction. Again, critical strike damage equals burning damage here, so we want to power this up with as much dexterity as possible in the radius, including smoldering embers. Then we want to head right through this dexterity, up through the middle, because we might as well grab kindling, straight up here to this intelligence, get yourself safeguard, so we can stand there channeling tanking easier, and then we go over and up, through yourself keeper of flames, and then we get get where it all happens, Burning Instinct for that silly amount of multiplicative more fire damage. Then we want to head right and down into our next board, which, as you might expect, is your Frigid Fate, arranged with Guided in the top right, going down to the Glyph slot, and Tactician is found there. We grab Chilling, mainly for the Dex, but the Intelligence is, of course, very nice, and then through Weakness, Detour to get said Frigid Fate, and then we continue on right into the next board, which is Ceaseless Conduit, just to pass through and activate a Glyph, which is Exploit. We'll be making people vulnerable with our Affix, so this works out nicely. Get the Dex to activate it, and move on and down into Elemental Summoner, arranged like this, with Keeper of Elements in the top right. Straight down we go through Erudite, mainly for the Intelligence, as we want to activate Enchanter for all that non-physical damage to power up our Frigid Fate. It's still worth doing, even if it's not working correctly. Conjurer 2 for the rest of the Intelligence, and then up and left into our final board, which is going to be your Combustion board, arranged with Flame Touched in the bottom right, and down we go to said Flame Touched. Again, the Intelligence is nice, and the extra fire damage at least does help, and here we will find Pyromaniac, which sadly isn't level 15 for me. I'm actually away soon, and I wanted to squeeze this in for you guys before I go, as it's so requested, and I didn't want to let you down on that front, so it's here as you do actually want this, but I've just not leveled it up yet, which means everything you've seen, by the way, is missing another 10% multiplicative Incinerate damage, and it's already ticking for 55 million, so if anything, that just shows you how much potential is here. This would activate it when it's level 15, as it would catch this willpower and this willpower, and then you are done with your Paragon board. So there you have it, everybody, a lovely bit of actual proper endgame incinerating that works shockingly well. I am very pleased with this, very happy indeed, and I hope you find yourselves just that too. For now then, let me know what you'd like to see next. Like if you enjoyed this, subscribe and hit the bell for more. Consider supporting the future of the channel on Patreon down below, and until we meet again, a goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.